I'm really honored that you're here for the launching of my book, Keys to an Amazing Life, Secrets of the Cervical Spine. This work and trying to find who I am, where I'm going, and how do I achieve what I want to achieve in my life, making sure that I'm happy and my family's happy, being very deeply thoughtful. These concepts really help me personally. So it helps patients before and after surgery, and it helped me a lot to do this work. Granularly, how is the software wired? It's wired at the level of the thought. So for example, if you have a negative thought, so you come to work and your boss says, liked you a lot, but you're fired. Immediately, your brain becomes anxious and you move into a depression. Your heart moves into what's called a sympathetic tract, which is shallow, irregular, fast beats. And your lungs take shallow breaths, and what that means directly for the spine. And now I wanted to call the book The Spinal Derivative, but Dr. Todd and many others told me don't do it. It's a business name. But if you go back to what happens in Nigeria, if there's a crisis in Nigeria, our prices of oil goes up. And so there is a relationship, it's a derivative. So when you're doing shallow breathing, right, the nerves are not moving, then the nerves do not have what's called nerve mobility, and they're stuck and they become painful. Same with the facet joints. So when the facets are not moving in the spine, it becomes painful. On the other hand, you come to work and your boss says, we've underestimated you and we've not really fairly paid you, and so here's a $100,000 check for your great work. And so you move into positive thought and positive neuroplasticity, and your brain gets excited. Your heart gets a parasympathetic mainly rhythm, and you get a good heartbeat. And your lungs, you're breathing deeply, and with each deep breath you're moving the nerves within the spinal channel, and you're moving the facet joints.
Personally, I have a huge interest in physical activity and exercise. For years and years of my life, I've always been very physically active, but I've also been a yoga enthusiast for greater than 20 years. It was just very natural for me to get into physiatry. It was a perfect flow for me in my specialty to choose this one. According to Exercises Medicine, in the initiative that the American College of Sports Medicine put forth approximately 5 years ago, they actually are wanting to encourage all physicians and healthcare professionals to actually address physical activity with every one of their patients that come through the door. So to ask your patient, are you physically active, and what is your level of activity? This is what they are coining the term as being the exercise vital sign. So I hope that everybody can look for that in their doctors when they go out there and see them. But doctors need to be asking this of their patients, especially when we have such a huge epidemic problem with obesity and chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular disease and diabetes. we're really needing to address physical activity. So it's great that the American College of Sports Medicine is very much involved with this for many years, as well as other organizations such as the American Medical Association.
Is basically trying to find a way of reducing someone's cervical pain or radicular symptoms, which is pain into the arms. So the key component is trying to deal with proper posture. In order to get that proper posture, someone who's had poor posture for quite a long period of time, and my partner will discuss it, there's a lot of structures that become tight over time, the cervicals become stretched out, and the spine itself goes through a lot of degenerative changes.
Now, this is kind of how people present. People have, everything we do in today's world is in front of us. So we're working this way, we're typing at a computer, we're working in front of us, construction workers are here. So this is how people get old. The head starts to come forward, okay? What that does is increase back bending here for headaches. The shoulders become rounded, okay? The low back gets stretched. You can have some pectorals and thoracic outlet syndrome. So the eyes compensate. So as you come forward, you don't realize it. You think you're upright, okay? The majority of our patients, well, this is really old, if you're like this. But some people come in like this. Hey, how you doing, Charlie? You know? So we have to get the neuroplasticity of the brain to bring this back. They say it's harder than quitting smoking. So the concept that Todd introduced of stabilization is to bring this back. Instead of having this forward head posture, it's kind of to retract the shoulder, retract the chin, bring the shoulders back, and have a perfect alignment of the spine. We can train you in a clinic for an hour and a half and get you to stabilize the spine in whatever you're doing, whether you're lifting a refrigerator or anything. You're going to prevent the spine from getting any further problems, prevent the headaches, the backaches that everybody else has been speaking about, and bring you to a better stage of life.
The moment we bring our attention to the breath, the mind immediately comes back to the present moment. It cannot remain in the past. It cannot think about future. So, let's sit nice and tall. We've been talking about straight spine, posture. So, let's sit with relaxed yet erect spine. Eyes closed if you can. I will breathe with a sound. And actually, instead of doing too much explanation, just reproduce what you see me doing. So breathe in into the belly, let the navel fall forward, then expand the chest, and then when you fill up the upper lobes of the lungs even, you'll notice a subtle movement of the shoulders, the clavicles going up. Yeah? So let's breathe. Deep Ujjayi breath it is called. Ujjayi means victory over the mind by the breath. Very simple. So creating that sound. Long and smooth, deep breaths. And the exhalation is not fast, it's not sudden. It's you're filling the lungs in and then breathing out very slowly and smooth. So this is an immediate way of relaxing, bringing your mind back to the center. If you brought it back.
What entrainment does is it breaks that psychological and physiological cycle of brain chemistry that keeps you in the endless loop of pain expectation. So when we expect pain, our brains are literally producing neurochemicals that support that belief, that keep it going. You know, I mean, this goes across everything, you know, oh, the pain, the pain, the pain, or how am I going to pay my bills, or this. You know, we repeat these things over and over, and it just causes more and more stress in our lives, which creates more and more pain. So basically what the entrainment does, through the pulse signals and something called the frequency following response, is that the brain will naturally follow a signal if it's steady, regular, and within the brain's range. So we create special signals that the brain then follows. The brain, in following it, releases a new set and combinations of neurochemistry. This breaks the cycle. You are worried about something, you're no longer worried about it. You know, we go through our lives thinking, oh, you know, life stinks, or this is bad, or the government's ruining the economy, and life is terrible. All these things go on, but they're all existing inside of our head. Now, when we relate that back to the back, which is a major source of pain throughout the whole body, we do the same thing. We're blaming something else. We have an expectation of something else. By changing our neurochemistry, we literally change our expectations. We change the way our brain works. There is nobody in this world who is naturally in a bad mood or naturally supposed to be in pain. Pain is a signal, like the dashboard on your life, I call it. If you see the oil light come on in your car, and you don't deal with it, your car seizes and your car's garbage. But if you deal with it $5, $10, $20 later, your car's running beautifully. This is what pain is. Pain is an indication that you need to do things. You need to do things like yoga, you need to do things like meditation, you need to do things like brainwave entrainment, because all of these techniques help you to help yourself. Thank you very much.
I've been very interested in changing people's lives through architecture. That's what I am. I'm an architect. And it's been an interesting road to getting people to think differently about how they work, how they live, what their environment is. It's mostly uphill. Sunlight is a huge stimulant. It awakens us, it turns us on, it turns the body on. It is absolutely critical in buildings to get more sunlight for a lot of reasons, also sustainability. But we've noticed in buildings, our buildings bring in about 100 to 150% more light than the average building. We study things like daylight harvesting, and it's been tremendous effect. We've seen companies like Microsoft, their absenteeism rate dropped by almost 20% when they moved into the new building. We've seen all kinds of fantastic effects, better, higher levels of productivity, more collaboration and creativity. Fresh air is also important.
For someone who spends hours in front of, say, a computer, like a writer, you're sort of in that forward position for 8 hours a day. How much exercise or rehabilitative exercise does it take to sort of counter that, to correct it, if you're doing it so many hours a day?
Actually, it depicts a lot of our civilization, and especially Western civilization, since we tend not to get up and move that much. Just like the American College of Sports Medicine stating in their exercise is medicine, they're encouraging people to get up and move as often as possible.
You really must design the workstation to suit you first of all. Get your posture correct to begin with, otherwise you'll never make it through the day. And then we usually start out someone's in acute pain, like once every hour we shoot for, like Dr. Griffin said. Shoot for once an hour or something like that, and then as you become less and less, we say, all right, if you're pretty much pain-free, let's do the exercises once a day, maybe once in the shower, if it's just cervical exercise or something like that. So each person is tailored to, their diagnosis or where they want to be throughout the day.
It's very interesting when we've done a number of different studies with ergonomists who look at the design of workstations. And I think the best score a company's ever had was when 93% of the workstations were wrong, just 93. Anyway, it's quite interesting. Most people do not look at posture as they work, and it gives all kinds of issues. And I think to Marcia's point, what we find is change it also. Keep it changed, keep moving, get up and down. A lot of people now have desks and tables that we've actually designed to work with the furniture industry to raise up so you can do work standing up, and then you can sit down and you adjust the stool height. I think the worst thing, certainly in my experience, my own experience, is sitting in the same position every day, all the time.
There's software that you can buy and install on any computer. You can adjust it for 5 or 10 minutes. Actually, when I had my back trouble, that's one of the things I installed on my computer. And every 10 minutes, it actually not only beeped and told me, stretch, it actually led me through a series of stretches similar to what Dr.
Hello, everybody. Started working with this troublemaker about 4 years ago. And I've been working with doctors, scientists. I've been so fortunate, sincerely, in my life. One of the things I think was most fascinating about his book is the power of positive thought. So we looked at really 4 things here. We looked at sleep, health, diet, and behavior change. And we also took one group that used Dr. Ken's book, and we had another group that used simply a psychology textbook and using the psychological principles from that textbook. And we got significant differences in every single one of the groups in favor of Dr. Ken's book. And some of the reasons for that were, number one, that they could truly understand and be inspired by Dr. Ken's book. They understood the power of positive thought.
To remind you, however, I am a surgeon, and this is what I do. We remove a disc that's herniated. We look straight back at the cord to make sure it's clean. Then we implant a bone graft and a plate.